Alright, welcome to this second Starsector modding tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll give you an overview of how to create a new star system. As before, all files will be available on GitHub, and you can download this tutorial as a standalone mod and play around with it for yourself. I hope you do. Let's start by jumping straight into our mod plugin script, which was introduced in the last tutorial. Like last time, we start with the onNewGame method and get the Starsector API, that essentially is the entire universe in Starsector. This time, though, we are going to create a brand new star system. I shall call it Wade's Star. We assign a reference to it called System so that we can continue working on it. Right now, it's just an empty, dislocated thing in the universe. To make it a star system, we need a star. We also need a location. To accomplish this, I've chosen to use the star system API's initStar method, which allows us to both create the star and assign it a position in the hyperspace sector. I like this method because it kills these two birds with one stone. For our task at hand, it's perfect. Remember to assign a reference so we can use our newly created star below. The API, or Application Programming Interface, don't let the jargon put you off, works with the following parameters. First, give a unique ID for this star system. Remember to avoid IDs that may already be in Starsector core. For example, Corvus is a bad ID because the Corvus system already has that ID. Next, give the star a type. We'll use star_orange. This is essentially the same idea as planet types, which we covered already. Next, give the star a suitable radius. For an orange star, 500 works good. Now is the fun part. The next two numbers determine the star's position in hyperspace. We'll give it -400 for the x position, and -9400 for the y position. This will put it right next to the Corvus star system so we can visit it in-game very quickly. However, if stars are too close together, their hyperspace jump points will overlap and make it a bit confusing to look at. Or worse, you may block some hyperspace points with other ones. Last, we set the corona size of the star. This is pretty self-explanatory. How far from the star should the corona extend? And now we have added a star to the star sector. It's not ready yet, though. We need to add hyperspace access points before the game will truly recognize it as a legitimate star system. We'll come to that in a bit. But first, let's go over a few more optional settings you should know about. First, it's possible to add a custom background to your star system. Add these background images to your mod's graphics/mod abbreviation/backgrounds folder. Notice that we add MAS between the graphics and backgrounds folder names. This is so the game can tell our custom graphics from those in Starsector core. The name of the in-between directory doesn't matter. We just can't use graphics/backgrounds. Once your image file is in place, you can set it to your star system by using setBackgroundTextureFileName and provide the relative path from your mod's directory. In our case, it's graphics/mas/backgrounds/test_background.jpg. Second, we can set an ambient light color to add even more character to the star system. Everything in the system will be tinted to this color, which can be either cool or awful. Use the setLightColor method to do this. It requires we use a Java color object. We'll just create a new color object on the fly. The color object takes 3 values between 0 and 255 for red, green, and blue. You're probably familiar with the hexadecimal notation for colors, so we'll use those. I know my favorite color is hexadecimal CC0080, which is easier to remember than the decimal equivalent. What is a star system without planets? Boring. It's boring. We covered planet creation in the last tutorial, but now let's look at a tool for making not just random planets, but random anything for our star system. That is the Star System Generator tool. It contains a function called addOrbitingEntities that will quickly add random planets and stuff to our star system. Call addOrbitingEntities and give it the following parameters. System, which is the reference to our current system that we kept from above. Star, which we also kept a reference to from above. This is the star around which to add stuff. Remember, some systems may have more than one star, but we won't get into that in this tutorial. Star age, which determines what kind of entities to add. We've imported the star age class and are using its average setting. Next, 2 whole numbers, min and max, that represent the minimum and maximum number of things to add to the system. In this case, we want to add only one entity or planet, so we use 1 for both. Next, the radius to start adding entities at. Remember, our star has a radius of 500 already and a corona of 250 on top of that, so 1000 is a pretty good starting distance. The name offset, this is a bit more esoteric, but basically it tells the game how to start counting generically named planets. For example, if the star is Alpha Centauri, and we set the offset to 1, this tells the game to name the next planet Alpha Centauri 1. And lastly, true or false whether you want to use custom names or not. If false, you'll get generic names like Alpha Centauri 1, based on the name offset. If not, the game will make custom names for you. Note that as of version 8.1, generic names don't work. Whatever you set these values, you'll always get custom names. Hopefully this will be fixed in the next version. That's it for Star System Generator. Every time you create a new game, this tool will add something different to the star system. Notice that we put a reference to a float value in front of the function call. That's because add orbiting entities does us a favor and returns the outermost orbit distance of the last thing it added to the star system. How is that useful? Well, let's take a look. Let's now add our own planet like we did in the last tutorial. But where should we add it? I don't want it to crash into whatever Star System Generator just made. That's where saving the return value comes in handy. Here, we'll add a planet and use the outermost orbit value as a starting point for the radius. We'll add an additional 600 for safety's sake. While we're on the subject of planets, we're going to expand on our knowledge from the last tutorial. Let's say we want to add surface conditions to our custom-made planet. Star System Generator does all that for us, but Add Planet does not. We need to use the Market API to do this. This may seem counterintuitive, but just go with it for now. To create a Market API, we use the global getFactory_createMarket function. It takes 3 parameters. The first is a unique ID for the market, or in practical terms, the de facto surface of our planet. Next, it takes a market name, which doesn't really matter for an uninhibited world like the ones we're dealing with, but we'll just use the same name as our planet. And last, it takes a market size value, which we'll set to 0 since, again, this isn't a real market, it's just the surface of the planet. I mean, how big should a non-existent market be? See, 0 makes perfect sense. Now we have a quote-unquote market created, but really it just represents the surface of our planet. To that end, we call its setPlanetConditionMarketOnly method with the value true. We've now told it that it's not a real market, but really just a bunch of planet conditions. So now let's add some of those surface conditions. We do that by using the addCondition method and giving it an ID for the various game's conditions. We choose to import the conditions class and use its settings. The full list can be found on the Starsector API. For now, let's make this a hot Jupiter and add very hot and dense atmosphere. Once you're happy with the conditions you've set up, it's time to connect the surface to the planet and vice versa. You need to call both setPrimaryEntity for the market/surface and give it a reference to your planet, and also call the setMarket for your planet and give it a reference to the market/surface, and then you're done. Some conditions will be visible from orbit, and other conditions will become visible upon surveying. Alright, we've saved the most vital step in our star system creation for last. That is Hyperspace Jumppoints. Without these, our star system basically doesn't exist. We've chosen to do it now, after we've created all our planets, because we're going to use the handy-dandy auto-generate Hyperspace Jumppoints method for the star system to create a fringe jump point. This method takes 2 parameters, both of which are either true or false. The first parameter determines whether to add a fringe jump point to the star system. Unless you make your own jump points, which we didn't cover in this tutorial, this needs to be true. The second parameter determines whether to add one-way jump points at gas giants that lead into the system. This is usually convenient to have as true. In our case, we'll make both values true. This is the easiest way to set up jump points for your star system, and it will cover most of your needs for now. Finally, as an added bonus, let's also cover custom descriptions. I mean, without custom descriptions, our star system really isn't much different from the ones the game already generates randomly. This requires we add another file to our mod, the descriptions.csv file. This file goes into your mod's data/string folder, and it must be named descriptions.csv. You can edit this file using Excel or a regular text editor. It contains a list of descriptions and their IDs separated by commas that will be used by the game. For now, we're only concerned with adding descriptions for our stars and planets. The first column of the CSV file is the ID, which we will use in our mod plugin to connect our planets and stars to the descriptions in the file. The second column tells the game what type of description this is. For our purposes, this needs to be custom. The third column is the primary description, which is the most important one because it is displayed to the player. The fourth column is a title that is shown if the player mouses over the star or planet in the game. Leave this blank and the game uses a default. The fifth column is where you can add an additional message to show the player when they approach a planet. It's safe to leave this blank. The last column is unused, just leave it alone. Once you have your file set up, all you need to do is call the setCustomDescriptionID method on your stars and planets and give it a matching ID to your descriptions, and they will appear in-game. Note that you can reuse the same description by just reusing the ID. Let's take a look. That's it for this tutorial. Not only have we created a new star system, but by adding planet surface conditions, we've laid the groundwork for eventually adding real markets to our game. Thanks for watching.